Marcus Aurelius lived almost 1,850 years ago. Just think about that for a moment. There were no smartphones, no social media, no internet, no television, no cars, no airplanes, no emails, no notifications, no Instagram, no TikTok, no YouTube. The world Marcus Aurelius lived in would be almost unrecognizable to us today. And yet, when you read the thoughts of Marcus Aurelius, something strange happens. He doesn't feel like a man who lived nearly 2,000 years ago. He feels like someone who understands exactly what we are going through today. He talks about procrastination. He talks about anger. He talks about jealousy. He talks about difficult people. He talks about wanting approval. He talks about worrying about what other people think. He talks about controlling your desires. He talks about getting out of bed when you don't feel like it. He talks about remaining disciplined when your mind wants comfort. He talks about remembering that your time on this earth is limited. And that's when you begin to realize something. Maybe the world hasn't changed as much as we think it has. Yes, our technology has changed. Our buildings have changed. Our transportation has changed. Our medicine has changed. The way we communicate has changed. But human nature has barely changed at all. And that is why the lessons of Marcus Aurelius may be more important today than ever before. The world changed. Human nature didn't. Marcus Aurelius was born in 121 AD. He eventually became emperor of Rome, one of the most powerful men in the world. But despite having enormous power, Marcus spent much of his life trying to master one person: himself. His private writings eventually became what we now know as meditations. And what's fascinating about meditations is that Marcus wasn't writing a book for you and me. He wasn't trying to become famous. He wasn't trying to build an audience. He wasn't trying to sell anything. These were reminders to himself. A man trying to keep himself disciplined. A man reminding himself not to become angry, not to become arrogant, not to waste his life, not to be controlled by pleasure, not to worry about other people's opinions. Think about that. The Emperor of Rome had to remind himself to get out of bed and do his work. Sound familiar? Nearly 1,850 years later, millions of people wake up every morning and have exactly the same argument with themselves. The alarm goes off. You know you should get up. But another voice says, 5 more minutes. You're tired. Start tomorrow. Skip the gym today. Do the work later. Marcus Aurelius was fighting that voice almost 2,000 years ago. We're still fighting it today. Different bedroom, different century, same battle. We didn't invent distraction. Sometimes we blame modern technology for all our problems. We say smartphones destroyed our attention. Social media made us jealous. The internet made us distracted. But technology didn't create these weaknesses. Technology learned how to exploit weaknesses that were already inside us. Human beings have always been distracted. We've always compared ourselves to others. We've always wanted approval. We've always chased pleasure. We've always avoided uncomfortable work. The smartphone simply put thousands of opportunities for distraction into our pocket. Think about social media. Why do people constantly check how many likes they received? Because they want approval. But did human beings suddenly start wanting approval when Instagram appeared? Of course not. People wanted status in ancient Rome. They wanted recognition. They wanted people talking about them. They wanted to be important. They wanted to be admired. Today, we count followers. They counted reputation, influence, titles, and social position. The scoreboard changed. The game didn't. People will always have something to say. Marcus Aurelius understood something that many of us still struggle to accept. You cannot control what other people think about you. You cannot control what people say about you. You cannot control whether someone misunderstands you. You cannot control whether somebody likes you. And yet look how much of our lives we waste trying to control exactly those things. Someone makes a negative comment about you. You think about it all day. Someone doesn't support your idea. Suddenly, you question yourself. Someone laughs at your ambition. You begin making your dreams smaller. Why? Because we're allowing another person's opinion to become more powerful than our own direction. Marcus lived in a world filled with politics, criticism, betrayal, and competing interests. Imagine being Emperor of Rome. Everyone wants something from you. Everyone has an opinion about your decisions. Some people praise you, some criticize you, some pretend to like you, some want your position. And Marcus kept reminding himself, focus on your own character, focus on your own actions, do what you believe is right. Because here's something we still haven't learned 1,850 years later. You could spend your entire life trying to please everyone and still fail. There will always be someone who doesn't understand you, someone who thinks you're doing it wrong, someone who thinks your dream is unrealistic, someone who thinks you've changed, someone who thinks you're too ambitious. And sometimes, strangely enough, the people who have never attempted what you're attempting will have the strongest opinions about how you should do it. You cannot build your life around that noise. Social media is just an ancient problem with new technology. Imagine Marcus Aurelius seeing Instagram for the first time. Millions of people showing each other their holidays, their cars, their houses, their bodies, their achievements, their relationships, their food, their lifestyles, and millions of other people comparing their lives to those images. Marcus probably wouldn't see a completely new human problem. He would recognize an ancient one. Comparison, status, ego, approval. We've taken ancient human desires and connected them to machines, capable of feeding those desires every second of the day. That's why discipline has become so important, because modern life is designed to constantly ask for your attention. Your phone vibrates, you look. A message arrives, you look. A notification appears, you look. A video starts playing, you watch. Another one appears, you watch. And suddenly an hour of your life has disappeared. Marcus Aurelius constantly reminded himself that life was short. Imagine what he would say about spending 3 or 4 hours every day scrolling through the lives of strangers. Time was precious 1,850 years ago. It is precious today, and once it's gone, you cannot buy it back. The battle with comfort. One of the greatest battles Marcus Aurelius wrote about was comfort. Your mind wants the easier option. That's not a modern problem, that's a human problem. Your alarm goes off. Stay in bed. You should exercise. Skip today. You need to make the difficult phone call. Do it tomorrow. You need to start the business. Wait until you're ready. You need to stop drinking. One more weekend. You need to change your diet. Start Monday. You need to study. Watch another episode first. And that voice sounds reasonable. That's what makes it dangerous. It rarely says, destroy your life. Instead, it whispers, not today. And if you listen long enough, not today becomes not this week, not this month, not this year, and eventually, not in this lifetime. Marcus Aurelius understood that discipline isn't about feeling motivated. It's about doing what needs to be done despite how you feel. You don't need to feel like getting out of bed. Get up anyway. You don't need to feel like training. Train anyway. You don't need to feel like working. Work anyway. Because if you only act when you feel motivated, your emotions become your master, and discipline means reversing that relationship. Difficult people have always existed. Marcus Aurelius wrote about dealing with selfish, arrogant, dishonest, and difficult people. Nearly 2,000 years later, we're still complaining about selfish, arrogant, dishonest, and difficult people. That alone should tell you something about human nature. Marcus understood that every morning you should expect to encounter people who frustrate you. Not because the world is terrible, but because people are imperfect, including you. And once you accept that, something changes. You stop being shocked every time someone behaves badly. Think about how much energy we waste being surprised that difficult people exist. Can you believe what he said? Can you believe what she did? Why would someone behave like that? Marcus might tell you, why are you surprised? Human beings have been behaving this way for thousands of years. Your job isn't to control their character. Your job is to control yours. That's an enormous difference. You cannot stop somebody being rude, but you can decide whether their rudeness controls your mood for the next 6 hours. You cannot stop somebody criticizing you, but you can decide whether their criticism stops you pursuing your goal. You cannot stop somebody becoming angry, but you can decide whether you join them. That is power. Not controlling the world, controlling yourself. Anger hasn't changed either. Look at modern society. Road rage, arguments online, people fighting in comment sections, people destroying relationships over words, people saying things in anger they regret 5 minutes later. Again, we think we're witnessing modern problems. We're not. Marcus Aurelius was writing about anger almost 1,850 years ago, because anger is another ancient human battle. Someone insults you. Immediately, your ego wants to respond. You want to prove them wrong. You want the last word. But ask yourself, what do you actually win? Sometimes the strongest response isn't saying more, it's walking away. Sometimes strength is silence. Sometimes discipline means allowing another person to believe they've won the argument because you understand the argument wasn't worth winning. Marcus understood that another person's bad behavior doesn't require you to copy it. That's something we desperately need today. Someone insults you online, you don't have to respond. Someone wants drama, you don't have to participate. Someone wants to drag you into negativity, you can keep walking. You don't have to attend every argument you're invited to. We still chase things that don't satisfy us. Money, status, recognition, possessions, followers, power. Human beings have chased these things for thousands of years. And Marcus Aurelius had something most people will never have. He was Emperor of Rome. He had status, power, influence, wealth. People bowed before him. And yet, his writings constantly return to character. Why? Because external success cannot solve every internal problem. You can become wealthy and still be insecure. You can become famous and still desperately need approval. You can become powerful and still be controlled by anger. You can own a beautiful house and still hate being alone with your thoughts. That's why the greatest work you will ever do isn't necessarily on your career, it's on yourself. You control less than you think. One of the foundations of Stoic thinking is understanding what you can control and what you cannot. And think about how much anxiety comes from confusing the two. Can you control the weather? No. Can you control the economy? No. Can you control what somebody says about you? No. Can you control whether everyone likes you? No. Can you control the past? No. Yet people spend enormous amounts of mental energy worrying about exactly those things. What can you control? Your effort, your decisions, your habits, your attitude, your response, your discipline, your next action. That's where your energy belongs. This doesn't mean you become passive. It means you become effective. Instead of wasting energy fighting reality, you put that energy into your response. The world is faster, but the answer is still the same. Marcus Aurelius lived in a slower world. Messages didn't arrive instantly. There were no notifications. There wasn't endless entertainment available 24 hours a day. And yet he still needed discipline. So imagine how much discipline we need today. We live in perhaps the greatest age of distraction humanity has ever created. Almost everything is available immediately. Food, entertainment, shopping, communication, information, pleasure. You can spend an entire day consuming without creating anything. And that's why one of the greatest advantages you can develop today is incredibly simple. The ability to focus, to put your phone down, to sit with discomfort, to work when you don't feel like working, to train when you don't feel like training, to ignore opinions that don't matter, to delay pleasure, to control your emotions. These ideas aren't new, they're ancient. But because human nature hasn't changed, they still work 1,850 years later. So what does Marcus Aurelius teach us today? Maybe the greatest lesson isn't any individual quote. Maybe it's the fact that we can read the private thoughts of a man from nearly 1,850 years ago and recognize ourselves. Think about how extraordinary that is. His empire is gone. The people who criticized him are gone. The people who praised him are gone. The buildings changed, the borders changed, languages changed, technology changed. Everything around humanity transformed, but inside the human mind, the same battle continued. Fear versus courage, comfort versus discipline, ego versus humility, anger versus control, distraction versus focus, approval versus self-respect, pleasure now versus achievement later. Marcus fought those battles. Your grandparents fought those battles. Your parents fought those battles. You're fighting them. And your children will probably fight them too. Unless human nature fundamentally changes, the battlefield remains. The real enemy. Maybe that's the lesson. For thousands of years, we've been trying to conquer the world. We've built empires, we've crossed oceans, we've landed on the moon, we've created computers, we've connected billions of people. We've put almost all human knowledge inside a device that fits into our pocket. And yet there is still one territory that many people never learn to control: themselves. You can have the most advanced technology in human history and still procrastinate. You can have access to more knowledge than Marcus Aurelius could ever have imagined and still refuse to learn. You can have access to the best training information ever created and still refuse to exercise. You can have thousands of motivational videos available instantly and still refuse to take action. Because information was never the entire problem. The problem was always execution, discipline, character, the ability to command yourself. So ask yourself this: when you wake up tomorrow and your mind tells you to stay in bed, remember, Marcus Aurelius fought that same battle. When someone criticizes you and you want to abandon your path, remember, people were criticizing one another 1,850 years ago. When you feel jealous looking at somebody else's life, remember, comparison existed long before social media. When anger tells you to react, remember, humans have regretted angry decisions for thousands of years. When pleasure tells you to forget your responsibilities, remember, temptation isn't new. And when you tell yourself that tomorrow you'll finally become disciplined, remember how many tomorrows humanity has already wasted. The world doesn't need to change before you change. Other people don't need to change before you change. Your circumstances don't need to become perfect. You need to decide what is within your control and take control of it. Because Marcus Aurelius lived nearly 1,850 years ago, his world disappeared. His empire disappeared. Almost everyone he knew disappeared from history. Yet, we're still reading his words. Why? Because technology changes, civilizations change, fashion changes, money changes, governments change, the way we communicate changes. But the deepest struggles of being human remain remarkably similar. And perhaps that's why the wisdom of Marcus Aurelius survived. He wasn't really writing about ancient Rome. He was writing about human nature. He was writing about you. He was writing about me. He was writing about the battle that every human being eventually has to fight. The battle between the person you are and the person you know you could become. Nearly 1,850 years later, the world looks completely different, but the battle remains the same. And the question Marcus Aurelius leaves us with isn't, can you control the world? It's much more difficult than that. Can you control yourself?